Welcome to Inside British Royals. This is your exclusive look inside the world's most famous family. We are exploring the scandals, secrets, and power plays that define the modern monarchy. If you are new here, please do well to hit that subscribe button for more updates. He was a celebrated war hero, a dashing prince, and by all accounts, the Queen's favorite son. He seemed destined for a life of incredible privilege and honor. But a dark and disturbing friendship would unravel everything, sparking a quiet, agonizing crisis inside the House of Windsor. It would ultimately force a queen and a mother to choose between her son and her crown. This is the story of how Queen Elizabeth's deep, instinctual love for Prince Andrew clashed with her solemn duty as monarch, and how her struggle to protect him nearly tarnished a centuries-old institution. To really understand what happened, we have to go back to the beginning, to a mother-son relationship that set the stage for one of the biggest royal scandals in modern history. When Prince Andrew was born in February 1960, the bells of Westminster Abbey rang out across London. He was the first child born to a reigning monarch in 103 years, a symbol of a new, more modern royal family. For Queen Elizabeth II, who was already a decade into her reign and mother to two older children, Charles and Anne, Andrew's arrival was different. With Charles and Anne, her duties as queen were all-consuming. She once left on a 6-month Commonwealth tour, leaving her young children behind. But with Andrew, she was determined to be more present. Royal experts all point to this time as being incredibly formative. The Queen made a point to add just her demanding schedule, cutting back on engagements to personally put Andrew to bed. Unlike his older brother Charles, who was often raised by nannies, Andrew experienced a much more hands-on maternal bond. Insiders described the Queen as being completely captivated by her second son. He was charming, loud, and had a confidence that his more reserved older brother just didn't have. This special attention, however, would have profound consequences down the line. Royal biographer Tina Brown argues this treatment created an aura of untouchability around Andrew, a belief that the normal rules didn't quite apply to him. Another expert, Andrew Loney, went even further, claiming the Queen didn't just have a blind spot for her son, but that she was aware of his questionable dealings and essentially allowed it to happen. This dynamic, of a doting mother and an entitled son, created the perfect conditions for the storm that was about to hit. He was the Golden Prince, but that shine was about to fade in the most spectacular way imaginable. The name that would shatter Prince Andrew's reputation and test his mother's loyalty to its limit was Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew was first introduced to the fantastically wealthy American financier and his associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, back in 1999. Before long, the trio were often seen together in a world of private jets, Caribbean islands, and lavish parties. In June 2000, Epstein and Maxwell were even guests at Windsor Castle for a dance party celebrating Andrew's 40th birthday. The friendship continued even after the first major red flags appeared. In 2008, Epstein was convicted in Florida for procuring a minor for prostitution and served 13 months in jail. And yet, in December 2010, not long after his release, Andrew was photographed walking with Epstein in New York's Central Park, a decision he would later call a catastrophic mistake. By this point, a much more sinister allegation was brewing. A young woman named Virginia Giuffre claimed she had been trafficked by Epstein and Maxwell and forced into sexual encounters with Prince Andrew 3 times, starting in London in 2001 when she was just 17 years old. The allegations were absolutely explosive. Buckingham Palace issued firm denials, stating any suggestion of impropriety with underage minors was categorically untrue. But the story just wouldn't disappear. A now infamous photo emerged, showing Andrew with his arm around a smiling Giuffre, with Ghislaine Maxwell grinning in the background. For years, the palace held a defensive line, but the pressure was building. Andrew's world was slowly shrinking. But the one thing that would truly detonate the crisis and force the Queen's hand was still to come. It was an act of self-sabotage so profound, it remains almost unbelievable. In November 2019, trying to silence the rumors and clear his name for good, Prince Andrew sat down for an interview with BBC Newsnight. The plan? Show the world a man who was wrongly accused, a victim of bad timing. The result? A public relations cataclysm. Instead of looking authoritative and innocent, Andrew came off as arrogant, smug, and completely lacking empathy for Epstein's victims. He offered a series of bizarre and instantly memeable excuses. When confronted with Giuffre's detailed account of them dancing sweatily at a London nightclub, he claimed he had a medical condition at the time, a result of his service in the Falklands War, that made it impossible for him to sweat. When asked about her claim of an encounter at his London home, he insisted he was at home with his daughters after taking one of them to a party at a Pizza Express in Woking. The reaction was instant and ruthless. Within days, dozens of charities, universities, and businesses cut their ties with him. The public was horrified, not just by the allegations, but by his shocking lack of compassion and terrible judgment. The interview had been a ticking time bomb. That the big question was, where would a prince with no obvious income get that kind of money? It's widely reported that the Queen stepped in, contributing a substantial amount from her private Duchy of Lancaster estate, though the palace has never confirmed the exact figures. It was a move designed to make the whole ugly problem disappear and shield the institution from a devastating public trial. Beyond the money, the Queen's protection was also deeply personal. In January 2022, facing overwhelming pressure, she stripped Andrew of his military affiliations and royal patronages, and he agreed to no longer use his Royal Highness style in an official capacity. But she resisted a total banishment. The most telling moment came just 2 months later, in March 2022, at the memorial service for her husband, Prince Philip. In a stunning public display, she chose Andrew to escort her into Westminster Abbey, walking arm in arm in full view of the world's cameras. It was a clear, unmistakable message of a mother's loyalty. It signaled that despite his public disgrace, he was still her son and he had her support. At the heart of all this is a fundamental conflict. Was Elizabeth acting as a mother or as a monarch? For her, the two roles might not have been so separate. Royal commentators argue that the Queen's deep affection for Andrew created blind spots, letting her separate his personal failings from his royal position. She likely saw protecting her son, the golden prince of his youth, as part of her duty to her family, a duty that she felt was intertwined with her duty to the crown. This stood in stark contrast to her heir, Charles. While the Queen's response was all about containment and protection, Charles reportedly favored a much firmer approach from the very beginning. He understood, in a way his mother perhaps couldn't, the immense damage Andrew was doing to the institution he was destined to lead. The Queen's actions were rooted in the past and her unique bond with her second son. Charles' perspective was fixed firmly on the future and the survival of the monarchy itself. This indulgence clearly had an effect on Andrew. Experts believe the Queen's lifelong favoritism gave him an inflated self-view and a sense of entitlement that was on full display in the Newsnight interview. He had spent his life shielded by his mother's love and the respect given to a prince. But that shield was tied to the Queen herself. With her passing, the protection she had so carefully maintained would quickly begin to fade, leaving her favorite son to face a reality she had long delayed. The Queen's death in September 2022 marked the end of an era, and with it, the end of the absolute protection around Andrew. As king, Charles III acted with a pragmatism his mother often set aside for Andrew. The consequences, once held back, began to set in. Andrew was effectively exiled from public life. He was barred from the Buckingham Palace balcony during official events like Trooping the Colour, a clear sign he was no longer a working part of the slimmed-down monarchy Charles envisions. While he retains his title of prince, he will never return to royal duties. Pressure has mounted for him to be evicted from his longtime residence, Royal Lodge, with reports that King Charles has significantly cut his allowance. As of early 2026, however, he remains in the home. The controversy continues to follow him. In February 2026, emails from 2010 and 2011 surfaced, appearing to show Andrew may have shared confidential government information with Jeffrey Epstein during his time as a UK trade envoy, sparking fresh calls for investigation. While no official action like an arrest has been taken, it serves as a constant reminder of the scandal. The situation leaves King Charles with an ongoing and deeply uncomfortable problem: what to do with his disgraced brother. This is a complicated story of family loyalty, public duty, and personal failure. If you find this look into the royal family compelling, make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss our next video. And let us know in the comments. Do you think the Queen did the right thing in protecting her son, or did her love for him ultimately cause more harm to the monarchy? In the end, Queen Elizabeth's shield could only delay the inevitable. Her profound motherly love, which had defined her relationship with Andrew from the day he was born, became a critical vulnerability for the crown. She managed the crisis, contained the immediate damage, and protected her favorite son for as long as she could. But in doing so, she passed on a tarnished legacy to her successor. King Charles inherited not just the throne, but the unenviable task of cleaning house, making the tough decisions his mother couldn't, and attempting to restore public trust in an institution shaken to its very core. The story of Queen Elizabeth and Prince Andrew is a modern tragedy, a powerful reminder that for a monarch, the conflict between love and duty can leave scars that last for generations.